Okay, and we are live. I'd like to welcome everybody to a very, very special edition of the Bassin Magazine podcast. Bassin Magazine, the official magazine of the Weekend Angler. Today, guys, we have someone who needs no introduction. We have none other than Carol Martens. And yes, this is the Carol Martens that all of you think she is. She is the mother of the greatest of all time tournament anglers, Aaron Martens. But also, she's an outdoor writer, tournament fisherman, and a fishing guide. How are you doing tonight, Carol?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
And Carol, with us tonight, we have Brad Yoel of Bassin Magazine.
Hey, Carol. Thanks for coming on.
It is quite a thrill, quite a thrill. Well, I'd like to cut to the chase and get the question answered that everybody wants to hear. Carol, when did you know that Aaron was going to be a special fisherman, not just in your mind, but in the minds of the entire United States?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
So I just know that we were renting a boat on Lake Casitas, and he was only 15, and we were out there, and there was a big tournament, took off and left us in the wake. And the sun was rising behind Aaron, and he was sitting in that boat rocking, and he goes, "Mom." I go, "What?" He goes, "That's what I want to do."
Yes.
So that was the shining moment. He was only like 15, and we didn't have a boat. But within a year, I went to the Fred Hall show, and I bought a beautiful Ranger bass boat.
There you go.
We started making checks right away with no experience. We just loved it. And that was the whole secret to our success. But he never really had, people don't know this about Aaron. They thought I had a rich husband, you know, kind of financing everything. No, I was putting seconds on the house and doing all that stuff, making loans like everybody else does. And Aaron, I'd take him out of school to take him fishing when he was in high school. But we just had such a passion for it that's all we could think of. And he never had grand ideas of being a big name or anything like that. He was always doing it for fun.
Really?
Yeah. And he didn't really decide. I think when he won his first boat at Lake Mead against all the old timers, and they had no clue of who this kid was because he was only 19. And they said, "Who's Aaron Martens?" And he won the first boat and called his dad and I and said, "What do I do now?" I started realizing maybe there is money in this for him. You know, maybe there is a future because he was just a kid, 19.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the whole story right there.
Wow. Wow. What do you think of that, Brad?
So did you guys start as a mother-son team? And
yeah, for almost 10 years.
Almost 10 years, you guys were.
And we would get like 3 and 4 Anglers of the Year titles in 1 year because we fished so many different, circuits and things.
Wow.
Was that primarily in California back then?
Yeah, just California. Well, you have to include Lake Mead, which is Nevada. And then you have to include Havasu, which is Arizona. Yeah, those 3 states mostly.
Okay.
So you got soccer moms out there, but you're a fishing mom, and then you're helping him land fish in the boat and winning these tournaments.
I resent it that they think this is a man's sport. I don't know whoever
said that, There's a whole lot of women who are in this sport now. Mm-hmm. More and more all the time.
Great. Yeah. Yep.
In fact, they have all women trails now.
The LBAA.
Yes.
I did that one time. I did it with Bassmasters. They had a women's event in Texas at Louisville.
Yes.
Another girlfriend took her boat and rig, and another girl, and I went by myself, and we drove all the way down there from California. She was in Arizona. I was in California. And it was one of the toughest tournaments I ever had. The water had dropped, and it was no time or anything. There was 200 women on boats or something. But I got to tell you, guys would have died laughing. Out there first thing in the morning, all you heard was giggling and laughing in real high voices. It was the weirdest experience I ever had.
Was everybody laughing because all the husbands are back in the boats down the trail?
Well, those days, the husbands were out there pre-fishing for their wives, which I didn't.
Wow. So you're also an outdoor writer. Who do you write for? Why don't you tell our viewers?
Yeah, I'm proud to say I write for the bassresource.com. And they've changed the whole website, as far as finding articles. But I really am proud of the articles I've done for them, because they invited me to write for them as a human interest person. And they know that I be funny. I enjoy making people laugh. So, but I did put makeup on for you tonight. Anyway, I've been writing for them until Aaron passed, and I'm working on a really touching article right now about a letter to Aaron from Mom.
Oh,
so
my.
But
must read.
To be my next article for them, but it's not done yet. It's very hard to write. But
sure.
Anyway, you have to read my stories. Just go Carol Martens and go on a search, and then about 12 stories pop up, and they're all true. And they're how Aaron and I got started, how to get sponsors, how to go to the bathroom on a boat with a strange man.
Oh, goodness.
And the best one of all is my 3 series of my snake stories.
Your snake story.
Because see, my boys, 3 boys, all loved snakes, and I hated them. So I have 30 years worth of snake stories that will make you probably wet your pants. But anyway,
Yeah,
they are funny and they're true.
that is funny.
Yeah, Bass Resource is a great online forum, and I know they have the different sections and everything on there, but it's one of the best bass reading websites out there. So
don't you go there when you want to know how to tie a knot or something?
Yep.
Yeah, it's really a great website. I recommend it to a lot of young people who are just starting to fish. They're all so smart as far as going on the internet and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Tell them to go in there and they can find an answer to everything in there.
Well, we have a comment already. It's from Cajun Rob. He says he can't wait till your letter to Aaron comes out, Miss Carol.
I can't either.
Yeah.
I've been working on it for 2 months.
Well, the best articles, I mean, I know I wrote for 20 years. There were some articles I just didn't want to let go. They weren't perfect yet, and I knew more was going to be revealed to me if I just waited. And
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you have so much to say that you can't put in that article.
No, I can tell, like with Jay, we write from our hearts. If you write from your heart, it's not about money. It's not about fame or anything like that. You want to touch people.
Right. Right.
You just want people to learn something. Like when on here today, or when I write something or whatever, even I'm in a cosmetic business, but whenever I'm dealing with people, it's all about them. And I want to be a good influence. I want to be a good friend and show genuine interest, so that's always my goal.
And like with your son, with him, I got the idea. It was about him being a great ambassador to the rest of the population about bass fishermen. Well, and that's why I admired him so much.
You're at a show, you're at the Classic, you're at wherever, he would talk to anybody that would come up to talk to him. And he always had something positive to say. He was always out there with a positive vibe, which made you feel good when you left, even if you were a kid to a grown adult, mature male or a female, anybody. It was just a conversation like he was next door at the boat dock talking to you.
You want to know the downside of that?
What is it?
I would pay money, fly back to Alabama just to go fishing with Aaron. We just, up to when he passed, we were fishing together. And it was the greatest thrill of my life to go just be on his boat with him and just go out for a whole day fishing. But everywhere Aaron and I went, I would be all ready. Let's go. Never failed. People around the boat, they're there before you can launch. They're there when you get off the lake. They're there on the lake.
Right.
And he took me way off into the woods one time to go to this little unknown lake in the middle of nowhere. We drive on this dirt road. We get all the way back there with his big old Crown Royal boat and all that, or whatever it was at the time. And all of a sudden, there's like 30 people in this little shack. And as soon as they saw Aaron, they went crazy. So guess what we did? He stood there and signed autographs. Even I did too.
Yeah.
And we were for probably like half hour talking to everybody, but that's what he was all about. And I'd say to him, can't we just kind of sneak in somewhere and just go fishing with, he goes, Mom, I can't help it. That, I think he really loved it.
Yeah.
He never tried to get away from somebody or anything like that.
Oh, very humble.
Yeah.
It does. it does feel good when you're recognized, and when you're
Yeah.
recognized by the masses, it's you've done your job well. That's the way I look at that.
And he never felt that he was special, even though we knew he was, but um,
Yeah,
the way he wasn't easy as a teenager. He was a typical teenager who could get a little arrogant, mouthy,
they
disrespectful.
all can. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've raised a lot of them.
he did all that. I used to have to slap him around once in a while and stuff. But what we talk about driving home from tournaments and stuff, there was just some rules, and I always share this with people in my writing and stuff. But when you're raising your child or when you're getting into fishing or a sport like this, there's just some things that top everything else. And one of them is sportsmanship. And people would say awful things about us. They'd accuse us of cheating and all that just because we get a check and they didn't think we deserved that. But I would.
Well, one thing my dad would always tell me.
We have to stay till the end of the tournament. We always stay till the end. And I said, and you always have to go up and congratulate the winner, always. And he did that as long as I can remember. And then one thing Leslie and I would try to get him to stop doing, and that is get up in front of the microphone, when he was weighing in or something, and tell all his sad stories. Oh, I had this 8-pounder break off today. And he'd go on, and we'd tell him, Aaron, they're clapping. They're so happy to hear that. Just telling him all the bad news. But he just couldn't help it most of the time. He had to share his sad story. But that proves that he was a normal, average person, because we knew that people enjoyed hearing that, but he just he thought they really would feel sorry for him.
That's a good day though, when you're in front of the microphone talking about breaking off an 8-pounder. I mean,
Yes.
hey, you're still in front of the microphone. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I always told him, the worst thing you can do is be arrogant. And if you say something wrong, or you pick a fight with somebody, because he hated to see people keep their fish, and he'd yell across the lake at them, put it back, stuff like that. But I told him, you could say one thing and that's what you'll be known for. Somebody will pick.
Right.
Exactly.
Now, that's true nowadays more than ever.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
there's guys out there who've ruined their careers because they mouthed off or picked a fight or jumped on someone's boat to punch them out, or something like that.
Yep.
Or they
Yes.
parking lot. And boy, when I talk to young guys, I fish with a lot of people, and they're usually younger than me always. And they're wanting to move up in the fishing world. But I tell them, this one guy was just unbelievably bad. He was breaking every rule as far as I was concerned on our day of fishing. I finally just let him have it. And I said, you're never going to be a tournament fisherman, and,
Wow.
I just told him how it was. And I said, you're much too negative. You worry about everybody else instead of yourself. You have a bad mouth and you smoke. So no, I was funny with him too. I really love him. But, sometimes these guys need someone just to, tell them the truth.
Right.
So try to do. But I still love him, and he knew it. I can say to people now, just think of me as your mom.
Yeah. What a mom, what a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you do a lot with women and kid fishing. Is that because Aaron was young and you guys were out there, and you want to talk about the backstory of that?
Well, it's funny because the fishing game you mentioned, what did you call that award you got? The ambassador. I'm looking over at my staircase, and I got an award about 8 years ago for being a fishing ambassador.
Yeah.
But with my influence on women.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a real big privilege for me.
Absolutely.
Now, what was that question again? Because I wanted to get that off my mind.
Yeah, you're good. I'm glad that you brought it up. My question was, you do a lot with women. Obviously, you got the ambassador award and kids fishing and that kind of stuff. Does that stem from Aaron being so young and you going fishing with him at such a young age?
That's exactly what it is, because we grew in the sport of fishing together. We learned everything together. We didn't have any mentors other than Bill Dance and Hank Parker and the guys on TV who are very, very close to Aaron all these years, But those guys, they all became friends of ours, which was really an honor. But we just got out there and started fishing, and we didn't have any grand ideas, but we learned together. We learned, and we didn't learn using electronics. We learned by nature. That's why they called him Nature Boy, because we called him that when he was 7 and 8 years old. He loved nature, and he would just notice the birds, the way the hillsides were shaped. He wanted to know where they went underwater, so he kind of figure out where the roads were and all that. So he was always he always had a natural approach to fishing, and so do I. I still do. I don't use GPS. I don't mark spots.
Wow.
I was out. Yeah, I've been out for 2 days in a row, and my girlfriend yesterday I fished with, she told me, "You always remember. How do you remember where that rock pile was when the lake's 30 feet higher now?" You know, and I go,
How do you remember where the boat ramp was?
"I'm a visual person. We're not. I'm a visual person. So
Okay.
fishing, I always remember everything around me. You know, so we can't all be like, you know, we're all different. Some people depend totally on their GPS. You know,
Yeah.
we just have to do what we do best and stick with it."
I mean, I fish the Great Lakes a lot, and you don't go out in the Great Lakes without GPS. You know, if the wind comes up and you can't find that boat ramp, you're in trouble.
Oh, that's a scary thought.
So
Oh, it's happened.
we
It's
have a
happened.
comment from Jacob Foote on Bassin Live, on Bassin Magazine Live Facebook, and he said, "Aaron is a true legend, and generations will forever be talking about him. Thank you for uplifting spirit, Carol. After listening to you, Carol, no wonder he was a great man."
Oh,
Wow.
I'm really so proud of him. I mean, he exceeded our expectations. Every single family member, all his friends, they all just, Aaron was different. There's just something, you know, I was able to talk to all the big names, you know, Tommy Biffle and all these guys. I was able to talk to them at the memorial in Alabama a few months ago. And they all just admired Aaron so much, but I got a chance to tell them things that Aaron said about them. Because, you know, it was Aaron, you know, but I looked at all these guys who were, half of them in tears and, you know, very upset. But I said, you know, you're a legend. Aaron and I grew up, you know, we would watch you on the shows. And I said, I still watch you. And I know they call you a grumpy old, you know what? And his wife started laughing. And I said, and you are. But that's what I love about you. I love to watch you fish MLF and all that. And I rewind it like 4 times to watch you tell these guys to get off your water and get out of there, or you're going to beat up their wife or whatever. But everybody has funny little quirks about them. And I'm a human, you know, human interest. But I'm always looking for people and their little gifts they have, or maybe their little faults they have. And I just really love people, genuinely. So, but I had such a wonderful time talking Kevin Van Dam. He had so much to do with success. And even up to the point where Aaron passed, all these guys, Todd Faircloth is one of his best friends. But they all just loved Aaron as a friend. But they also appreciated his truthfulness. And that, I didn't tell you that, but that's like the second point for fishermen. Besides being honorable and a good sport, always tell the truth. And I told Aaron, if you can't tell the truth, don't say anything.
Yes.
If someone says, what bait are you using? You can say, I'd rather not say.
Yes.
And if you notice, he'd say, well, I was using a Berkeley Craw. He's sponsored by Robo, and, you know, but he never lied about it, ever.
What kind of lures are you using? They were Jay's lures.
Well, people trusted him.
Yes.
You'll hear stories about these guys like, I call him the squirrel. What's his name? Jeff Creek. People like that tell me, yeah, I'd ask Aaron something, but I knew he'd tell me the truth. And he would. He'd sit right down and show me how to do it and even give me a hook or give me, you know. So that really made him special, because a lot of guys just don't like to do that, you know.
No.
And
No.
in fact, you'd love this story when drop shotting got so famous. I'm sitting at the table right here, and Aaron had been in Elephant Butte fishing against the Japanese guys who were drop shotting and won the tournament. And he had never drop shot to that point. And he was researching it, and he was asking everybody to show him how to drop shot, you know, how to do the knots and stuff. He was just gleaning information. And right at this table where I'm sitting, he said, Mom, have you ever heard of drop shot? And I said, yeah, Liz, my hairdresser girlfriend, just showed me how to do it last week or 2 weeks ago. We've been doing it. Show me how you tie your hook. So I sat right here and showed him how to do it. Well, after he did all his little research, he became the king, you know. So then he goes back east, right? And he says, that's how I started my guide trips too, because people would call him and he couldn't do it and he'd refer me. So and
Wow.
and but anyway, he went back east, and Denny Brower, and he's Guido. I think it was Guido. Aaron, what's this drop shot thing? Show me how to do it. He showed all those guys one-on-one how to set up a drop shot. And I said to him, honestly, why do you do that?
Yeah.
You're back east. You don't know back east. They do. You're giving them a weapon, So I tell him when I thought he was making a big mistake, and his little Aaron self laughed and said, well, by the time they learn how to do it, I'll have excelled some more and they won't be able to do it like I do. That was his attitude.
And he's right. I mean, what a positive outlook on it, to not lie about it, to help people, because they're friends, even though they're competitors.
Yeah. And you know what? They do the same for him.
Yeah, I believe that. What goes around comes around. You get what you give.
Yeah, they'll break their, they would do anything to help him, So that's what you want in the sport. You definitely want that.
Yeah, you can't have too many friends.
No. But
yes.
only a few close ones.
Yeah, well, yeah, keep your circle small, but but you got to be nice to everybody.
Yes.
Even when it hurts.
There was a guy who actually got so mad at Aaron one time that he threw a swim bait across a lake and tried to hit us as we drove by, and the line went around his neck, and I reached over and threw it up in the air, and of course we made a complaint and all that. That guy, Aaron's had a number of things happen in his life that I'll never speak to them again. He's had a few of those, but he never did that. He would just not encounter them or talk about them. And over the years, not one of those people have remained an enemy at all. And even at memorials, the one we had here locally, they all showed up. The ones that we had run-ins with when we were young, and fishing clubs and ABA and all those tournaments, they were all there with tears in their eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's
how many people are at this?
Everybody, be forgiving. If you can't be decent to a person, just stay out of their way, but don't carry on a dispute like that, because we all make mistakes,
We do.
Yeah.
And some of us continue to make them.
Oh, really? Yeah, I thought you were an angel.
Well, that's a name. I get that a lot.
I want to know more about this guy who has Bassin Magazine.
So Bassin, are you familiar with Bassin?
Yes.
Okay, Bassin's been around since 1981. It's the #1 magazine for the weekend angler. Yes, there's Bassmasters out there. There's FLW out there. We don't report on pros. We do how-to fishing, and whether that comes from a pro or a weekend angler, it's all education and new product review. That's what it's about.
I wonder if there's any difference between a weekend angler and a pro sometimes.
Sometimes I wonder also.
Sometimes I just be me.
There definitely is overlap.
Yeah.
Some of the best anglers I've ever run into never really fished tournaments.
Right. Yeah.
Because you can weigh into a tournament, you can pay to get to fish, But some of these guys who are really, really good, they don't have the money or the means or a boat, whatever, but they're good. So I always encourage people, if you love fishing, hook up with somebody in a club or,
Yeah, there's a local club. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying what you're saying. They can hook up with as a AAA or fish a tournament as a non-boater. I highly recommend that. Aaron never did that, but I did. I have fished with thousands of men and a few women, but it was an experience that I wouldn't trade for anything, because those are all friends of mine, and I learned a lot from all of them.
Being a non-boater in a tournament is educational, even if you don't learn anything about fishing.
Mm-hmm.
If I tell people that write into the magazine or call or whatever, hey, I want to be a pro, what steps do I need to take? You can Google all that, but fish at least 1 year, if not 2 to 5, as a non-boater. no one wants to be a non-boater for 5 years. I get that, but it's so educational to be in the back of the boat and learn. It's worth it.
They'll have to read that article I wrote about fishing the back of the boat. I prefer it myself. The last 2 days, I had to do the trolling motor for up to 10 hours a day and do all the work, but I love going fishing with my friends like I did about a week ago, and he did everything. I sat on the throne, and I caught as many fish as he did, and no, not that day. When I'm in the back of the boat, you have more angles to fish. So I always tell people it's not such a bad thing to be standing in the back of the boat, because that guy in front has to fish in front, but I can fish all the way from the middle of the boat back on both sides and behind. So when he goes over a fish, I'm watching the meter and I see a fish under the boat. As we pass that fish about 10 feet, 20 feet away, I cast back to it. And I have caught so many fish that way.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's a little tip for the people out there who have to sit in the back seat. And you can stand and just lean against the seat with your legs, for balance.
I think you have the key to all of it right there is a positive mental attitude.
Mm-hmm. Make the best out of it, right?
Because I recently had Gary Haraguchi on, who's a member of the Duo Realis Pro staff, and that's exactly what he said. This man has won over $400,000 in his career as a co-angler. And I asked him, tell me. And he said, it's all about attitude. I respect my boaters, and I wait for my perfect cast. And when it comes, I know. And then you have to fish your heart out.
And it's so much fun to be the hero, because those guys are so happy when they find out that you can actually fish.
Right.
Yes.
Because now I always have people say to me, I was praying I'd get you. Because I fish hard. I don't even sit to eat something unless we're traveling, I fish the whole time. I'm all prepared when I get there. And I try to catch the most fish, the biggest fish. I want to outfish that guy if I can, And the hardest thing is to net a fish. That freaks me out, because I use nets around here much. But when you're fishing like these big tournaments, you got to net that guy's fish, and maybe, oh my gosh, my heart almost stops sometimes.
Yeah, if you screw that up, oh my, he'll never forgive you.
Don't want to knock that off with the net for sure.
He'll never forgive you.
It's happened to me before. I would have won a tournament if the guy hadn't done that. He knocked my fish off.
Yeah.
That's all part of fishing. That's all, because I started out as a walleye fisherman, in my professional career, and it's every walleye is netted, even if it's 12 inches or 30 inches long, and when you're out on Lake Erie and the waves are going up and down by 5 feet, and you're trying to net it, and the fish is way up here, now it's down there, and
no, that's horrible. That's a nightmare.
Yeah, you're just trying not to fall out of the boat.
Well, it is not. I liked what you said about him saying that he fishes his best cast and all that. But you have to think about it. I'm elderly now. I'm a great grandma a couple of times, and the thing is that it's hard work being a boater. It's very hard. There's a lot of responsibility. Just think how much that boat costs. And Guy, I know about boat upkeep. It's always like you have to replace the seat covering or the tires, the bearings. And I've learned that's another thing I write about is, kind of like taking care of a boat, launching for dummies. I've taught many people how to launch a boat because everybody does it wrong when they start. And it's so easy.
Yes.
Someone shows you how to do it, and you go up on a day when no one else is there and take your time. The worst thing you can do is rush. Oh, I know. I just thought of an answer to one of the first questions. I taught a lot of women how to bass fish. Some real impressive women too. Anyway, I take them out, and every woman I ever took out fishing always caught her first bass with me, and then many after that.
Yay.
But this one guy in Santa Barbara, he owned a Harley Davidson, in Santa Barbara dealership. And he paid me to take his wife out because she didn't want to fish, had no interest. I took Judy out, and we had so much fun. I think I ended up taking her on 3 or 4 guide trips. And she loved it so much, they sold the business, bought a camper and a boat, and took off across the country, and I never saw them again. But they thanked me over and over because she had the passion.
And they changed their lives.
Yeah.
And they and change their lives. I always tell people, I'm going to tell you something, it'll change your life. And they always laugh, but usually it does.
That's awesome.
It just takes a little thing, just like Aaron got me started with bass fishing only because we were fishing way before he was born, because I have two much older sons, and we'd go to the Sierras and all that and trout fish and everything. But where I have pictures of Aaron on my desktop right now when he was 2 years old in a backpack on his dad's back in the high Sierras. And he learned how to fish as a baby, trout fishing. But I learned on Malibu Pier because the three boys were down there on a mackerel run. And I wanted them to go home. I was tired of sunbathing. And they handed me a rod. Aaron forced me to bring in a mackerel on Malibu Pier. And when I got it to the top of the pier, I looked at him and I went, that was fun. So we stayed dark. From then on, we were shore fishing everywhere, renting boats. And that holy mackerel changed my life.
Holy mackerel.
Holy mackerel.
That one mackerel, you never know when the light bulb's going to go on,
Never know.
And then
the couple,
go ahead.
The couple that sold the Harley dealership, I bet she outfishes him because of the knowledge that you taught her. But as a husband whose wife, wants to go every now and then, my wife likes reading a book in the boat, but separate story. But at least he's out there with her and going. So you taught him more than just her how to fish.
Well, I used to do those bass bends, lectures for about 20 years at the Fred Hall Show and stuff. I talk to those women. I tell them you're missing all the fun. You could be having so much fun because you don't know the joy of fishing yet. I mean, that's what I focus on, is showing people the fun side of it. And with parents who tell me, how did you raise Aaron? Blah, blah, blah. Well, you just never let them get tired of it. You don't force them to enjoy it. It's things where you have to really use good judgment with family members, your wife or your husband. My husband didn't like it, but he'd go out with me and we'd fish and he'd be so bored, that he'd say, pull the boat over. So I'd pull it over. He'd go collect cans in the mountains and said, come back here in 2 hours and get me. So he never did love bass fishing, thankfully, because Aaron and I could have never done it like we did. I let him go hiking. He would do the whole John Muir Trail and all this stuff. And his love was trekking and hiking and world traveling, to Mount Everest and all that stuff. So he did that. And Aaron and I went fishing. So that was the trade-off.
Wow.
And it worked. That's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
It did work. So I want to ask this. I've asked a lot of guys this, but I've never been able to ask somebody's mom. What is it like to sit there and watch your son stand up on stage after he just won a tournament?
Well, he did that, on Mother's Day.
Wow.
And, after my husband passed away, which has been 7 years now, it was in May, 7 years ago, I went to the Delta with him and my grandson up to the Delta, and he got second place with Lucas. Lucas got first place. And I knew Lucas when he was just a little kid, and his mom said, if you ever want to come up to the Delta, you can stay at our house.
So you did.
Yeah, Lucas was, Aaron was his mentor. He patterned his whole life after Aaron in those days. So here, Justin gets first place, Aaron gets second. And so then we came back home. Aaron dropped me off here. He and the grandson went on to pre-fish for Havasu. I drove and took my boat and truck and followed them down there. We stayed in a different hotel. We stayed totally away from the tournament. And that was elites. All the elites were here from back east. And we went out and we outfished. I saw Kevin Van Dam going up and down the lake and Ike and Nellie and all that. We're catching fish. They're not. I still get kicked. And anyway, Aaron wins that tournament, and it was Mother's Day. And he wasn't expected to win because Cliff Perch and some other guys were doing better than him. But Liz and I went up and found him that day, and he was fishing a reef in the middle of, near the launch area. And he was all alone, and he only had 2 fish. And we went up and we sat there and we talked to him. And it was such an emotional thing. And he was feeling good, but I felt funny. I left because I thought I shouldn't be there bothering him. So we left. As I drove away, I had tears in my eyes, and it was like I abandoned a puppy, Oh. So I go across the lake, never saw him again. We went down the river and all that. And then when we got into weigh-in, he comes in almost last, and he has the winning weight. And he did that
Wow.
pattern. And Aaron and I learned the blackbird pattern 30 years ago. And I forgot about it. But we used to do it when he was just starting to fish back at Havasu. He'd have me do it. And we'd throw a big weight in the back of the tules. We even caught a huge bullfrog once. I have a picture of it. And I didn't catch him that way, but Aaron always remembered that. And that day it saved him, and he caught all those big fish doing that after he saw me. Then I found out from his wife later, Carol, you should have stayed. He loves it when he has an audience, someone watching him, especially you. So I found that out. I didn't know that. I learned something that day. But then they had me hand off the trophy to him.
Wow.
And it was Mother's Day. What a Mother's Day. That was a God thing. There's no doubt.
No doubt. That's awesome.
Lost my husband, and he gets a second place, and then the next week gets a first place.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know we're running out of time, and I'll have to come back sometime.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to have you. I do want to come back and ask you, you said a blackbird pattern?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I've been fishing my whole life. I'm not a professional fisherman. I love fishermen. I fish as much as I possibly can, but maybe that's a West Coast thing. I'm going to play dumb and throw it out there. I've never heard of a blackbird pattern. Can you break it down?
Exactly what it is.
It's what?
I think Jay knows exactly what the blackbird. You don't know? Oh my gosh!
I'm from the Midwest.
I was at Lake Castaic yesterday and Lake Pyramid Monday, and the blackbirds are there. They're the blackbirds that have the red in their wings. They have red.
Red-winged blackbirds, yes.
And they are West Coast, but this is Havasu. They've always been in Havasu, and they're in the reeds. And during this time of year, they're nesting, and they have baby blackbirds, and the babies are in the nest way back in the tules. So what happens is, in fact, Elite did a fantastic video, the Zona and all that, showing how the little baby bird gets up on the nest and falls in 2 feet of water or a foot of water, and that bass is sitting right under the bed, the nest, waiting for the bird. And the reason Aaron knew that the blackbirds were doing this is because he found the feathers in his live well.
Oh, they were okay.
So he didn't do that every day. I think he only did that on the third day, and he got all 5-pounders. You know.
Now you see where I'm from now, down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's the alligators who sit under there and waiting for that.
Oh, yikes!
Probably where Brad lives too.
We don't have any alligators, thank goodness. So, what bait are you throwing all the way back there? I mean, what bait to make those fish eat, thinking that it's a baby blackbird?
If you see that, it's on the Bassmasters thing, but it's just a jig, And Aaron, I have boxes of his jigs that he handmade that he gave me years ago because he just didn't want to use them anymore. They were brand new. And anyway, he makes his own jigs and stuff, but to imitate a little bird, they would be like dark brown, or I can't remember what color those were. They might have been black, because the birds are black.
Yeah, match the hatch.
But doesn't have time to think about it. When you throw that back there, Aaron would always say, listen for the plop. And then if you don't hear the plop, you reel it in and throw it again, because you have to hear the splash.
Oh.
That would be instant. If you could get that back there, you're like, 15 feet or something into the tules, and you hear that splash, you can almost guarantee you're going to get a bite.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Isn't that neat? That's so innovative.
Yeah,
I have never heard of that.
That's everywhere. I mean, think about it. Everywhere in the country, there's some kind of little mouse or rat or bird or whatever.
Frog. Yeah.
And bass eat everything.
Anything they get their mouth on, yeah.
That is an amazing technique that I've never heard of. That is awesome.
I had to share that because everyone was proud of that. That was a good deal.
Way back when they used to make a jitterbug, a Fred Albergos, that looked like a blackbird.
That's funny because I just fished with a guy and he was using, I think, a jitterbug.
Yeah.
At Havasu. I think that's what he was using, and I brought it home with me. It's a weird looking thing.
Yeah, well, that's the 1970s. But Fred Albergos Lures actually makes that now. Still makes them.
Still, yeah.
They're owned by Pradco now, but.
Well, maybe that's what he was using because he prided himself in being one of the few people that use that bait faithfully everywhere he goes.
Well, still uses it because lots of people used it back in the 70s. You can tell them that. That was.
Yeah.
But before it gets too late, I did want to mention Robo because Aaron and I both had sponsors dating way back when we were a team. And Robo, we had other lures that aren't even available anymore, but Robo was a definite sponsor of us, back when we were a team. They still sponsor me. But I get all my products, when I need them and stuff. But Aaron really helped Robo grow. That was one of the oldest sponsors he had was Robo. And they've done so much, during this whole time he was sick and stuff. But Greg Stump and his dad, who owned Robo, it was a father and son. And we grew up with all these father and sons, there's a whole bunch of them, and I'm still friends with a lot of them today. But that was really, I just tell people this is a great family sport, and it's either friends with friends or family, and you can't go wrong. I mean, there's just not a healthier sport out there. And the sponsors who do it, maybe I'll come back. I know we're not going to have time to really get into all the sponsorship things and all that, but if I know, I can prepare a little bit and maybe give people clues how to get sponsored. But we had to come to a natural way. I always tell people, first of all, you have to be a good fisherman.
Right.
You're there with your looks, or how you dress. That's important, but it's really about your skills.
Yeah.
Number one skill is if you can talk, because a lot.
Yes.
Right.
You have to be able to effectively promote.
Yes.
And they tried to get Aaron to go to a speech therapist, because he had a lisp like me, and he wasn't a good speaker. And I told him, you keep fishing. He was winning everything. I said, don't even think about it. And look what a great speaker he became because he was natural. He didn't have
to say, I never noticed that he wasn't an effective speaker.
Oh, you didn't know he was 20. No. He stuttered and he didn't know what to, he was very shy, and I'd give him little cheat notes, but it just takes experience. You don't learn overnight, and you have to laugh at yourself. I stuttered so bad when I was a young adult that I wouldn't speak in public, and I'd go, you, like that bad.
Well, after the 60th time you've done it,
My company, the Jaffa Cosmetics, I've been with them since the very beginning. It's been like, almost 60 years. And they had me speak at every meeting. And so I'd get up there and stutter, and then I'd laugh at myself, and everybody else would laugh, and I got over it very quickly. In fact, now guess what my favorite thing in the whole world is?
Speaking?
Public speaking.
Public speaking.
I mean, don't prompt anyone. Just put me on stage and I'll take off,
Well, and Aaron was on the stage for so long that it became natural on what he was going to say, and he overcame that. I never knew.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, after the 60th time you've done it, it gets easier.
Right.
Well, when you realize that no one's going to throw tomatoes at you, and
no,
and then if you stop judging yourself so harshly and stop putting yourself down and just say, I'm going to do my best and get out there and do it. And then if you make a mistake, just laugh about it and say, oh, well.
Oh, well, I'm human just like everybody else.
That's what they there, and he was human.
Yeah, you're human. You're gonna screw up.
Yeah.
And if you don't pay any attention to it, nobody else will either.
Isn't it weird that after he was diagnosed with cancer, brain cancer, from then on he became a perfect human being? Isn't that kind of sad to think about? But I'm so grateful.
Right.
Because he never made one mistake in my book. All that time he fought that cancer. He was so positive. He loved people. He did more and more. He called me up and say, how are you, Mom? Before I'd even get a chance to say, how are you? He'd go, I'm fine. I'm good. He'd always say, I'm good. I'm good. He could be having migraines. I'm good. Jeez. I don't know if I could do, I wouldn't be out fishing tournaments. I think he fished 9 tournaments with brain cancer. Yeah. I wouldn't be out there doing that. I'd be at home on the couch watching Mary Tyler Moore.
I saw some footage of him on the floor of his boat, casting from the floor of his boat.
Yeah, he laid on the floor. That was a horrible. He was so bad off at that point. It
just shows me the determination in this man.
Yeah.
And the love for the sport. I want to do this one more time.
And he got
I could see that in his face, and it just, wow, I want to be like him.
Yeah, everybody does. We just don't know how he did it. It was his faith, but he grew as a believer. He really grew giant steps. He came to church with me in California here, and we prayed for him and stuff, but he had so many people. He had millions of people praying for him.
He did.
He tell people, I feel the prayers. He came here in July, before he passed, and he didn't go to the fireworks show with us. He laid on in bed, but he went swimming, and I took him fishing at Castaic, and everything was like for the last time. And that was kind of hard because we always expected a miracle until the very end. And then I went back there 3 times too. And we went on his boat for the last time, and just those emotional events. We had 8 of us on his boat. And it was so funny. He was almost blind. He couldn't walk on his own or anything. He's sitting in the passenger seat of his boat. My grandson's at the trolling motor. He trolls us out. And after about a half hour, Aaron goes, "This is not a good spot." We couldn't get a bite. So then I went back there after Aaron passed. I went back there recently with Gary, his good friend Gary. We took Aaron's boat out with one of the guys, you might know him. He does a TV thing or a radio thing. And his name, Patrick, I think. And we went out there from the casting show. He does a casting. Anyway, we went out to the spot that Aaron wanted us to go to, and then we caught some fish.
Oh.
But those are hard things. Everywhere I go, I see Aaron.
Yes.
We learned how to fish at Pyramid, Casitas, and Castaic. And every time I go there, I see a spot where I took him the last time, or where he broke a world record on Lower Lake. And he told me, "Mom, let me take you there Mother's Day. You can get a world record limit." He was catching all 10 pounders. And I don't know why, but I didn't go with him. And we didn't go that day. Now, don't you think I wish I had?
Oh, yeah.
You always have to wish you had, but you can't go back. And
Always. Very human thing to do.
Lower Lake and realize that's where all the big fish are.
He's out there showing you he's there.
Oh, you feel, yeah, I've already had a vision of him too. I saw him and his dad. It was as real as you guys sitting there right now. And I saw it just for 3 or 4 seconds, and it changed my life. I was in church and I had my eyes closed, and there they were. And Aaron was reaching out to me. "Can you see me?" He was doing this.
Oh.
And then Jesus had his arm up like this on Aaron's left shoulder, and my husband was on the other side. They were all laughing. And I know exactly why they were laughing, because before Aaron passed, I said, I know a lot about heaven. And I said, "Do you want me to tell you about heaven?" And he looked at me real serious. He goes, "You know what? I'd rather be surprised."
Oh.
When he did this, that's what I was saying. And Jesus, in fact, one of the Phoenix boat owner, I mean, so many people have come to see Aaron and say goodbye and all that. And he said to me, he told Aaron, he says, "You're going to beat me there, but you better find some good spots for us." And then someone else said, "I think Aaron went because Jesus wanted somebody to fish with."
Oh, right.
I love that, because, people say those things. They don't know how real it might be. They don't know.
Right.
Yeah. And I believe it's true. So there you go.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So I've been able to deal with this. I still have my joy and
Yes.
joy. And we talked about that all the time on our trips together. We talk about we always talked positive about everything, and that's what made it so wonderful to be with them, because we talk about other people, and I'd say, "Well, I'm going to have to pray for him," or something. It was never a gossip session or anything like that,
Okay.
And I just want to put a shout out to MLF and Bassmasters, because those people have been over backwards to do things for Aaron and help the family and all that. And you know that he was inducted into the Hall of Fame this year.
Yes.
And Tommy Biffle. So I just wrote Tommy Biffle a letter and congratulated him too, because that's going to be fun to see all those people in October.
That will be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know what to say.
Just a huge congratulations on being a fantastic mom and partner and role model. And Aaron is amazing. I mean, he is amazing. He's not going to be, he is.
And also, Carol, you are also a great ambassador to this fantastic, I'm going to call it a lifestyle we have, because this is more than a sport.
Yeah.
At least to me it is, and I know to Brad too. And
it's a family. It really is a family.
It is a family.
Yeah.
Yes. I have met so many great people doing this podcast, and I feel like I know Aaron, even though I never got to talk to him directly. But I've watched him for so many years on all the different TV shows he's been on.
Isn't that great that we can still, I have so much stuff that I taped off of TV. MLF let me go out with him on one of his last tournaments in Florida. That was a year ago, November, that he passed away. It was a year before he passed away, but they even gave me a boat and a driver and all that so I could follow, videotape him and stuff. I actually videotaped him catching his biggest fish, and he came right towards me with the fish jumping and all that. And they said I got a better video than any of their cameramen.
Oh, wow.
But I'm just saying they've done everything to make it as enjoyable as possible, you know. And then one thing I keep, when people are feeling so bad about Aaron, I go, don't feel bad about Aaron. Think about yourself. Where are you going?
Yeah.
Because I don't think we're going to live forever. And
No.
Aaron was proof that we don't live forever.
No.
You know, he's the healthiest person I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Much the rest of us. So I just tell people, take care of yourself and, you know, think about your own, you know, your life too. You know, don't, because Aaron had his all together.
Yes, he did. That's
He probably
everybody told me about him. This was a man who had a healthy lifestyle,
Yeah.
lived right, and look what happened.
Yep.
Yeah. But he, you know, he handled it just perfect. Like I said, he didn't do one thing to me that wasn't perfect during that whole time that he was diagnosed, since he was diagnosed. Even in the hospital, all the nurses and doctors just loved him. And I went with him to Duke's University, and we went from Florida to Duke's University, drove all that way. And his wife and him went for a second opinion, you know, and I waited. And then we drove back to Alabama together. And it was just, even that was such an emotional, hard thing to go through. But
Absolutely.
But he fished before. He took me fishing before we went to Duke's, before he went to Duke's the day before. And then we stopped. And anytime we go to NASCAR, anything like that, we'd always fish anything that was around there, South Carolina, North Carolina. And I think that's what hurts the most, is that I can't look forward to doing that anymore. Because that, to me, was the highlight of my life, you know, is fishing with him on new lakes. That was so much fun.
Right.
I have the memories, and that was great. I have pictures too.
Wow. And you know what? Most sons don't have nowhere near that kind of relationship with their mothers.
Oh, it's very unusual. Yeah. Yeah.
That's fantastic. You know, that enriched his life.
Yeah.
And I guarantee a lot of those guys were jealous that, you know,
Yeah.
Mom never fished with me.
Right.
Yeah. Our family has become much closer, and I really value each person in my family, my grandkids and my daughter-in-laws. I have the best 2 daughter-in-laws, and just my grandkids and all that. They're all doing so well. And it's just, it's very, you know, it makes me proud. And, you know, my husband has been gone for 7 years, but we didn't think we did a good job at raising our kids. You know, we started very young, you know.
Nobody ever does.
That's a parent.
But
Nobody ever does.
Aaron just has made me so proud, because he did everything way beyond what I thought was humanly possible, you know.
I'm sure he did, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Carol, do you have any shout outs you'd like to do?
Well, I did that one with MLF and Bassmaster,
Sure.
you know, Zona, and these people who've been very supportive. I'm just really thankful too for all the other pro anglers. And you know what? Some of the people I've met lately who just came to his memorials and things, they just started fishing. They never met Aaron. They just idolized him. They just thought he was wonderful. They learned from him. But they impressed me so much, that people like that. So it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. I think it's been a real rewarding experience for me in many ways. But yeah, our sponsors, you know, like Aaron's Phoenix boats were beautiful. I grew to just love his boat. I have a Ranger myself.
Sure.
And then come back, we'll talk about how Aaron and I always had different sponsors. I mean, but we seem to always have the same fishing line sponsors. We went all through the whole gamut, you know. Sunline's what we use and still do. But he had such a big influence on Gamakatsu hooks and Duo Realis. I mean, they listened to him, and that's why he didn't go to some other sponsors who offered him money, a lot of money. He didn't go to them because they wouldn't make the product he needed.
Right.
He was so meticulous that if they didn't put the right handle or the right reel, he wouldn't use it, you know. And people like Duo and all that, they listen to him. They flew him to Japan every year to listen to him.
I know David Swinside certainly listened to him. He was
Yeah.
David Swinside's a next level man, and he exists on a different plane than the rest of us. And he would talk about Aaron just so fondly.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, there that last week before Aaron passed, David and I were there at the same time for a week. And so I got to know David even a lot more. We had a lot of good laughs, a lot of fun times just being together. But yeah, he and I have become pretty good friends now. But yeah,
I believe it.
Aaron had the best sponsors. You know what? That's what made me feel so sad. It's because he had every sponsor he's ever wanted. He just got Loomis rods, and he had every sponsor he's ever wanted. All that year he was diagnosed, they all came together, and he had them all. So I don't know what that means, but he had reached what, we all have people we admire and boats and cars and stuff, but he had everything that he ever wanted. So I guess you could say he reached his peak or his goal, But I'll tell you one last thing about him that I still can't believe. And I asked Leslie about this, and I said, when he was diagnosed, they knew a lot more than they told me. I always had hope to the very end, but he was supposed to be lucky if he lived a year, and he had like 1% chance, and he lived for a year and a half and led a full life during that time. So, but I said, didn't he ever remorse? Like, you look at his house, he had a camper, a motorhome, a brand new boat, another one coming in, and had a 3-car garage full of tackle, bigger than any tackle store I've ever been in. He had the clothes he liked. He had a modest house, but he had everything he wanted, every material thing, a Corvette in the garage that he never drove. And I said, did he ever talk about any of his possessions or anything like that? And she goes, not one time. I still can't believe that, because I thought about it a lot.
Yeah,
Sure.
But
he
not
deserves,
material things. It's just very interesting to me. That's why I say he was perfect, because most people be thinking of material,
Yeah, but those are his things that he deserved them. He won them. Those are his.
He wanted to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So there you have it. That's a pretty good story today.
It certainly was. This was one of the best podcasts I've ever been part of.
Yeah. I look forward to you coming back and talking more. I appreciate you coming.
And we'll talk more about sponsors and things, maybe now and next time people can go and read my articles, because I still read them over and over again to myself, because they were a piece of art, let me tell you. And
why don't you tell us again where people can find it?
It's bassresource.com, and they just have to go to search and put my name in. Make sure you spell Martens right, and you'll get my stuff and Aaron's. All the Martens start popping up, and they have us kind of together. But it is hard to find sometimes, because they've segmented everything now. I don't know if you noticed that, but when you go on there, you might have to go to each category, and then for my articles, because my articles are in like 3 or 4 different categories. And maybe next time I come back, I can be more precise about that. But I'm there.
But it has a great search option on it. Maybe if they do go on and search Carol Martens, it'll pull up all of your stuff.
That's what I'm hoping. But if not, just go to the fishing stories. Like, they have, women. Well, I don't write that much about women. I like men, to tell you the truth. I had 3 boys and grandsons, lots of grandsons. So yeah, I like men, but yeah, they'll find me.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come and talk to our viewers here on the Bassin Magazine podcast. Carol, we really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And I'm sure Brad feels the exact same way.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Really enjoyed it.
And, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Bassin Magazine podcast with very, very special guest, Carol Martin.
Well, goodbye. Like Aaron.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm off.
Okay. Goodbye.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Hey,
Have a good weekend.
Carol, hold on. I'm done being live. I'm off. Are you?
Okay, and I'm